Folks, this is a story that is both hysterically funny and really infuriating. Now, how could it be both? Well, a lot of stories have to be both. If that weren't the case, we wouldn't have a show, right? That's what we do. We get you mad about things, and then we make you laugh about things. So the Gretchen Whitmer administration used calculated scheme to hide sensitive email from the public, the lawsuit says. All right, let's get into this from the Washington Free Beacon. A consultant for Governor Gretchen Whitmer used a coded message in a calculated effort to conceal from the public record sensitive communications regarding the administration's response to a local water crisis in Michigan, according to a lawsuit. Michigan Energy Department consultant Andy Levitz, probably likes to pronounce it Levitt, but I like calling him Leave It, because you could say leave it to leave it. That's a good name for a political consultant. Hey, don't worry about it. Leave it to leave it. Leave It's got it, right? Andy Leavitt in September 2021 emailed a top advisor to Whitmer to express some, quote, major red flags with the administration's response to a lead water crisis in southwestern Michigan, which Leavitt compared to a similar crisis in Flint, Michigan. But Leavitt's initial message was not written in English. The consultant used letters in the Greek alphabets in place of English ones, a move that, quote, appears to be calculated to conceal the statements, a June court filing in a class action suit against Whitmer's government argues. Leavitt's use of Greek letters means his email would have been excluded from any public records request for government communications that contain the word Flint. In other words, how do you get around the censors? We get around the censors here by making up substitute words for certain words that we're not supposed to say. He does the same thing. Leavitt's 2021 coded message discusses the lead water crisis in Benton Harbor, a small town in southwestern Michigan. The town's water system for years exceeded federal standards for lead contamination, prompting a group of residents in November 2021 to sue Whitmer over her government's, quote, deliberate indifference to addressing the crisis. 1 month before the residents filed their suit, Leavitt, a partner at a Michigan strategic consultant firm who was advising Whitmer's energy department, emailed Whitmer's senior advisor, Kara Cook, to express his concern over the administration's, quote, not acceptable warnings to Benton Harbor residents. Sounds like Flint all over again, right? Leavitt's top-line assessment of the warnings, however, was written using the Greek alphabet. Here's the email. As you can see, it's written entirely in Greek so that it wouldn't show up on any public records request searches. The translation, for those who are not well-versed in Greek, although Russell will be by this time next month, maybe you could get a job, doing investigative journalism over in Michigan. Yeah, exactly. This translates to hot off the presses. As I warned, there are some major red flags. It seems like we are back at square one, having not learned from Flint. While the lawsuit eventually led to the discovery of Leavitt's message, because it wouldn't show up in the searches, what happens when you file a lawsuit, you have a legal team parse through, hundreds, maybe even thousands of documents. Right. It's called document review. It's a major branch of law. A lot of people get paid a lot of money to parse through documents all day, every day. So while the lawsuit eventually led to the discovery of Leavitt's message, the email likely would have remained hidden from the public if Whitmer's administration had not faced legal action. That's because Michigan's Public Records Department is unable to electronically search for records that use Greek letters, government correspondence obtained by the Washington Free Beacon shows. As a result, even if a concerned citizen or political group caught wind of the tactic and requested Energy Department communications that use certain Greek letters, Michigan's government would have been unable to provide them without searching for the letters manually, an extremely expensive process that can take years. Now, folks, like I said, this is a funny story in a sense, but it would just be funny if this were to hide like a sex scandal or some technical campaign finance matter. No, this is being done to cover up Flint's 2.0. And when we look at Benton Harbor, this is according to Data USA, let's look at the stats for Benton Harbor's 87% African-American town. By the way, that's not reflected in this graphic here, but look what is. Population 9,806, obviously 2 Democratic senators in Michigan. The median age 36.6. Look at the poverty rate. According to the last census, 44.9% poverty rate. Look at the median household income, $21,000 a year, $21,947. Look at the median property value at a time when nobody can afford a house anywhere, $59,000. Okay. So you talk about this being another Flint. There has been reporting on this saying that this is actually worse than Flint. And, as funny as it is that they used Greek letters to cover this shit up, it's absolutely infuriating that they would do this. I mean, this is something Rick Snyder would do. When Gretchen Whitmer ran for governor, she pledged a more transparent government than Rick Snyder's government. And now look at this. So, on a more serious note, to broaden this out, this is why I keep coming back to this. This is why I screamed at Thomas Frank, fuck the country. Because I'm sorry, you're going to tell me that we're supposed to be invested.
You just have to keep reopening that wound, Keith.
I'm just saying. This is what I mean, man. Because you're going to tell me, and I know you pretty much agree with what I'm saying here. You're going to tell me that we have to keep Trump out of office to protect our democracy. Are you really telling me this country here is really worth investing in? I mean, Whitmer gets mentioned in a lot of conversations. He's almost certainly going to run for president in 2028, no matter what happens this time. She's a rising star in the Democratic Party. She's one of the highest profile executives in the Democratic Party right now. She's almost certain to run for the highest office in the land. This is the kind of shit that they pull, not to cover up a stupid thing. If it were a technical thing, a finance thing, a sex scandal, or what? No, this is the poisoning of a small, poor, mostly black town. Again.
Well, this is why I wrote an entire article arguing we might be better off trying to take over the Republican Party. Because in the end, and I wrote another article dealing with why I was leaving the Democrats. A lot of people will argue to you as a final line of defense, well, what about poor black and brown people? Don't you care about them? It's easy for you to say from your position of privilege that you won't vote Democrat. And people who say that only look at media that doesn't tell them about this. And to put some personal responsibility on them, they're completely incurious about stories like this.
Right.
You cannot argue if you sit down and you dig into the modern, we're not talking 1964 here, the modern history of the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats have done more real world harm to people of color than Reagan in his wildest dreams did to people of color. Now, I'm not saying that's because Republicans are better disposed. I think they have a different economic calculus, and they also face different media scrutiny. So I'm not saying it's because the Republicans are better, but they have different incentive structures. For Democrats, they believe they can take those voters for granted. We're seeing right now in Trump's numbers with that community that may finally be catching up with them. But for a very long time, they've just felt like we don't have to do anything for that community. Not only do we not have to do anything for that community, we can actually hurt that community in order to please white people in the suburbs to get their votes. And they'll still vote for us because we're going to go up there and we're going to talk about racist Republicans and that kind of thing. And in the end, we're still dining out on the Civil Rights Act. For Republicans, the math is very different. One, they do not get the pass from the media the Democrats do. Democrats, look, what did Biden take? I forget his name, the congressman from Louisiana, who was the black congressman of Cancer Alley, a mostly
I forget what you're talking about, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
mostly African American area outside of New Orleans with incredible cancer rates because of the chemical plants that they allow there. It gave him a position with the environment when Biden came in. What if the Republicans had done that? The media would have been all over that. This guy is the congressperson from Cancer Alley, and these horrible Republicans put him in charge of environmental policy. They would have been all over it. So the Republicans have to think about that before they make moves like that, whereas the Democrats don't have to. But also for Republicans, the math is different. If they can peel away 5% of the black vote, Democrats can't win.
Right.
Not ever. All they need is 5%. So when you put all of that together, if you actually pay attention and your head's not just in the corporate media bubble, you know that Democrats kick poor black people in the teeth all the time, as badly or worse than Republicans do. That's a big part of why that argument is ludicrous if you actually know anything about what people like Whitmer actually do to those communities when no one is looking. And because of the media bias, generally nobody is looking. Who's reporting this?
Yeah, no, this was in the Washington Free Beacon. This was in the Washington Free Beacon. I mean, if Rick Snyder had done this, it would have come out. We're not saying Rick Snyder's hands are, I mean, obviously, he's the one who poisoned Flint on purpose. He poisoned Flint on purpose. He should be in jail, right? Republican governor.
Right.
But
and
then
under Barack
he went
Obama, he
in
did not
2020.
go to jail.
In 2020, Snyder endorsed Joe Biden over Donald Trump, and Biden touted that endorsement. All right, he didn't reject that endorsement, right? And so
it's not like Joe Rogan.
Right, yes, right. Not as bad as Joe Rogan, exactly. And so it's amazing just what a brazen thing to do that was, and how, yeah, that came out, Washington Free Beacon. I saw The Rising did a segment on it. But that's it. That hasn't been anywhere else. I haven't even seen that in progressive indie media anywhere else.
Please clap.